Good morning, and it's very good to see you here, also in person. And I also was working in Vienna for around 7 years, so it's very, very nice to be back. But well, as I said, I'm Anna Fensel, and I'm many of you I also know in person. Well, for those who don't know, well, I work at Semantic Technology Institute for a number of years, but now I'm shifted to Wageningen University in the Netherlands. So I'm finishing my job in University of Innsbruck as an associate professor and starting as a professor for artificial intelligence in Wageningen University, which is specialized very much in life sciences and agriculture. It's the best university in the world in this area. And we apply semantics a lot. But in this talk, I will be talking about the smashHit project, which is ongoing one, and we do still with University of Innsbruck and a number of other partners. And with major also, well, there was, for example, a question whether semantics is used or interoperability, do industry care and about these things? Well, yes, they do. So we in particular, in this case, we work with LexisNexis and with Volkswagen to make solutions about consent and about contracts for data sharing, and we do it with knowledge graphs. So first about smashHit project, it's an ongoing project which is Horizon 2020 still, and it's a a standard big project with total €7 million budget, out of which my group has around 1/10 of it. And we lead automated contracting and making transparent consent management for scenarios there which are relevant, which has to do with data, with smart cities and insurance data, obviously, and with car data. For example, you have companies like Volkswagen, they collect a lot of data in the car and then they want to share it, for example, to improve something in smart city, or to share it with insurance company to define better insurance products. Then you need consent from the user all the time, and eventually also contracts. So they're talking like in the EU language. We need transparent this data sharing, and we do kind of what we call it a dispatcher or data sharing, and we want to, well, again for EU to have better solutions for European data, especially in this ones when we talk about people and insurance data and cars, and that's very much data we have in Europe. So it's not about the web, but more about Internet of Things data. But still, we use a lot of web technologies there, as I will just briefly explain. And the larger, of course, also motivator for this kind of project is GDPR. In this case, that's basically companies get huge fines if they don't comply, and then they realize, okay, there is a GDPR, and we don't have really good tools or solutions, and we don't know how to make the user feel that there is transparency for data sharing and so on. And for this, we run this kind of projects. So it's also, some of you also working on similar projects. So it's not the only one. And for example, particularly we look at consent and contracts in our work. And we have two business cases. Well, as I said, one is related to smart city and insurance with Volkswagen and LexisNexis, and another one with City of Helsinki. So this is the largest. And then we have even more sensor data, which is also a lot, implies modeling a lot of context, what any kind of scenarios you have in a smart city. So we actually think, basically it means that we do design ontologies, but we don't do, well, we use a lot of from existing ontologies, and we actually also think how to use this in scenarios, for example, that we really take ontologies and existing solutions, and for example, how can we do scalable systems, how we can do compliance checking with this kind of, when we have very heterogeneous input. So we already have some results here, and also we have some ontologies developed, and as I said, it's a lot of reuse from existing efforts. For example, G consent, we were using a lot, and or DRL eventually, also for contracts part, FIBO. So there is already very good specification or developments in the area, and we more or less were. Our challenge was actually to put these things together to make it work. So this was what we are still doing. And for some of the cases, we also looked into scenarios. For example, in some of the projects, another one very similar, also with Volkswagen, we did it via Campanile. It's finishing now, and then we already published a few papers with this consent solution for the case of Internet of Things, like of Volkswagen, for example. How can you motivate users to share data to improve something specific, like for example, we want to share the data, improve quality of roads, for example, in Innsbruck, and then we were recording consent and also looking at the whole implementation behind how you can revoke consent, how you can grant consent, how you maintain this knowledge graph. So we have prototypes designed for this. We also experimented with user interfaces, so we're checking what motivates people more and what motivates people less, and how they feel actually about using this kind of interface, because this is also what industry was interested in, well, how we can deploy it, that users are motivated to share as much as data with us as possible, and preferably for free. Yeah, this is the request you have from the industry, and it should be transparent, so knowledge graphs are also very fine. So this is the kind of things we were looking, and so also you can log them and process, work with the logs for this consent. And also consent revocation is a topic, so something what we, for example, also published last year at Semantic conference. It was also in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, how you can, well, revoke consent, and because now you often grant consent, and essentially it should be as easy to revoke it as you granted, but it's never working this way. So we were trying this kind of solutions and seeing how users are receiving them and how they are usable, how would they feel about this. So generally, of course, all of this kind of solutions generally improve the situation. Just the question is how much. Yeah? So this is the kind of things we test. And of course, it goes to the updates in knowledge graph. So we will aim, because the smashHit is still running, we will aim to have this documentation or to have these tools, at least the ones we do at university, to be open to use. So they will be published and there will be APIs like this. So we will already have some of those. And also ontology, we also have quite a developed version. So we have already submitted also paper for Semantic Web Journal with smashHit core ontology and this kind of integration for these scenarios, which may be useful for people who do similar applications, or also want to see how actually you can put all these different things together and make it work. And we develop further this automated contracting tool, and then we want to actually also expand it to the contracts for data sharing, for example, that you can model again using ontologies, and it's already to a large extent existing, but to see how this really works and on which conditions I provide my data, who can access it, when, what is the obligations, and so on. Are there any conflicts? So this is also something what we would be checking them afterwards. And then also we are having these APIs for this kind of thing, so it will be not only ontology but also a tool which you can basically take and adapt for your purposes. And it's also very reasonable tool when there are multiple stakeholders and they are trying to do something useful with each other's data. So it's less, for example, was interesting for partners like LexisNexis in our consortium for a monopolist for insurance data. So they said, well, it's interesting to look what you do, but we don't think we need it because we just monopolist and centralized. But for smaller companies, for example, in smart city scenario where you have multiple stakeholders with data, it becomes interesting how you can semantify this interfaces for data sharing on contract basis. So it also will be everything published openly. We want to do it because I also want to use this kind of tool for my next projects, or for example in agriculture domain where I work, and this is also comes there and becomes very relevant to this kind of things because for smart cities and the web, we already think and there is legislation, but then, okay, we have also agriculture and we have farms, we have Internet of Things data, food security, soil quality data, which also farmers are obliged to share openly, but also they don't have tools and they're also scared to do it because you can get only problems with sharing your data about your soil because somebody finds something bad there and then your food is not bought. So it's very bad. So there are many challenges, well, technical ones, how to make this technology accessible by everybody, but also non-technical ones, well, how to actually motivate people to participate in it and how to make this technology bring in some value to them, that they actually see the value in participation, because otherwise they won't participate, obviously. But in terms of this project, basically, well, we are finishing these prototypes and we hope to come up with kind of useful implementation that works for a number of scenarios. Also, well, mainly, I guess, with Internet of Things scenarios, be it smart city or smart farm or smart consumer. And then we support consent and contract workflows from creation to execution to findability to composition to checking what is there against other things. For example, contracts may be contradicting to some granted consent, or also with some licenses. For example, we were also part of the DALIC project with some of the partners here, like Sabrina and Martin, Semantic web company, Vienna, this university where we are, and also University of St. Pölten, we were doing together on semantic licenses. So this is also, we were looking now how to combine these parts and make a system which understands all this complex legal situation around data management. Yeah, so these are some ontologies. So you get what is kind of here, like what you can describe in the contract, what goes on. So this is also more or less, it's already first version published and we are updating them. And this is some mockups for contracts, which are very early mockups that we are developing this tool then further to make it working. Yeah, so well, as a result, we basically will be then completing this work, coming up with tools for management of consent and contracts, and also different checks of different contradictions, and seeing how this applies to use cases and coming up with best practices and how you really use it, and that it's also usable then for other domains like agriculture. Yeah, so I have shown then a few things, and well, I hope it brings then maybe further we can discuss and further maybe see what we can do together and how we can also put these diverse things and efforts in direction that really brings impact in various ways. Thank you for attention.